Day 15, proportions, scale drawings, percent, solving percent problems. We're going to start with proportions. A proportion is a statement that two ratios are equal. So literally two fractions are set equal to one another. A proportion shows that the number of two different ratios compare to each other in the same way. The proportion 2/3 is equal to 10/15 is read 2 is to 3 as 10 is to 15. In a proportion, the cross products are equal. So 3 and 10 are the means for the terms in the middle of the proportion, and 2 and 15 are the extremes for the terms in the beginning and the end of the proportion. To solve a proportion with an unknown term represented by a variable, set the cross products equal to one another, then solve the resulting equation using division. So if we look at some examples, you're also going to be working with unit pricing here. Unit pricing is literally just the price paid over the quantity bought in units equals the unit price over 1. So with these, you're just taking the price that's paid and dividing it by the number of ounces, the number of items, whichever, to get something per item. So for 9, in our short response questions, we're comparing and writing equal to or not equal to for each bracket. So for A, we are given 5 to 8 is something to 15 over 24. So if you do 5 times 3, you get 15. 8 times 3 is 24. So these two are equal to each other. For B, you have 8 over 10 and 36 over 50. 10 times 5 is 8. 10 times 5 is 50, but 8 times 5 is not 36. So these are not equal to one another. For C, you have 14 over 18 is equal to 70 over 80. So 70 over 80 is 7 over 8, which if you multiply the 7 by 2, you get the 14, but 8 times 2 is not 18. So these are not equal to each other. And then for D, you have 48 over 69 and 32 over 48. With the 32 over 46. With both of these, really, you could divide them by 2, and then simplify, and then see if they are equal to one another. Or you can cross multiply, which we could have done in all of these. So if you were to cross multiply, the 48 times 46 is 2208. And then the 69 times 32 is 2208. So because these are both the same, when you cross multiply, they are equal to one another. For 10, we are solving each proportion. For A, 10A, we are given 12 over n is equal to 27 over 36. So if we cross multiply with these, we get 27n is equal to 12 times 36 is 432. So from here, we're just going to divide each side by the 27 to get n by itself. And then you just simplify these. 3 goes into both. We can also just divide the 432 by 27 and get 16. So n is 16 here. For B, we are given n over 26 is equal to 9 over 39. So we can cross multiply these. We're going to get 39n is equal to 26 times 9, which is 234. From here, we are going to divide each side by the 39, and we get that n is equal to 6. For C, we are given 21 over 27 is equal to n over 63. So we're going to cross multiply. 27 times n is 27n, and 21 times 63 gives us 1323. So 27n is equal to 1323. We're going to divide each side by the 27. And n is equal to 49. For D, we're given n over 16 is equal to 25 over 40. We're going to cross multiply. So n times 40 is 40n. And 16 times 25 gives us 400. We can divide each side by the 40. So n is equal to, a 0 cancels out for both. 40 divided by 4 is 10. For 11, it tells us that one of the ratios in a proportion is 4/5. Each of the cross products is equal to 120. What is the other ratio? So if we set this up, it tells us that we are working with a fraction of 4/5, or a ratio of 4 to 5. The cross products of this, so we have a proportion of something over something. So I'm going to choose two different variables with these. The cross products is 120. So if we did 4 times y, it's going to equal 120. And if we did 5 times x, it equals 120. So if we divide each of these, we divide this one by 4, we get that y is 30. We divide this one by 5, we get that x is 120 divided by 5 is 24. So 30 and 24 are our two numbers. The 24 is our x, the y is our 30, so that would give us the fraction 24 over 30. For 12, it says, if 4 apple pies require 22 apples, how many pies can be made with 77 apples? So this is giving us 4 over 22 is equal to x over 77. 4 over 22 is equal to x over 77. So I'm going to cross multiply here. I'm going to have 22x is equal to 4 times 77, which is 308. So we are going to divide each side by the 22, and we get that x is 14. For 13, we're finding the unit price for each and rounding to the nearest cent. So for 13A, we have 3 cans of cat food for 85 cents. So this would just be 85 cents, or 0.85, divided by 3, which gives us 0.283 repeating, so that's 0.28. For B, it's 14 ounces of olive oil for $3.59, so it's $3.59 divided by 14. So 3.59 divided by 14 gives us 26 cents per ounce. For C, it tells us 8.5 pounds of ground beef for $19. So it's $19 for 8.5 ounces. We're going to do 19 divided by 8.5, which gives us $2.24 per pound. For D, we have 4 pairs of socks for $11. So we're doing for each pair, so that's 11 over 4, which is $2.75 per pair. For 14, it says choose the better buy for each comparison. So for A, we have 3 cans of tomato sauce for $1.49, or 5 cans of tomato sauce for $2.39. So for the first one, we're going to do 1.49 divided by 3. We get 0.50, so 50 cents per can. For A, that's 5 cans for $2.39. So $2.39 divided by 5 is 48 cents per can. So the 5 cans for $2.39 is our better buy. For B, we have 24 ounces of juice for $2.25 or 40 ounces for $3.79. So 225 divided by 24 is 9 cents. Or the 40 ounces for $3.79. So $3.79 divided by 40 is 9 cents as well. However, if we look at these, this first one is 0.09375. The second one is 0.09475. So this one here, the top one would be our better buy. For C, we have 4.4 pounds of sugar for $2.35 or 10 pounds of sugar for $4.99. So the better buy here, we're going to do 235 divided by 4.4, which is 0.53. And then the 4.99 divided by 10, we're just moving the decimal point of 0.499. So the better buy here is the 10 pounds for $4.99. For D, we're given a bag of 8 rolls for $1.89 or a bag of 18 rolls for $3.79. So $1.89 divided by 8, it gives us 24 cents per roll. And then for the 18, that's 3.79 divided by 18, so that's 21 cents. So the 18 rolls is our better buy. For the next part of our lesson, we are working on scale drawings. So a scale drawing can be a reduction, such as a map or a floor plan, or an enlargement of an actual object. The scale of the drawing is a ratio of the size of the drawing to the size of the actual object. Your scale is also equal to the size of the drawing over the size of the actual object. To find an unknown length of the scale drawing, write and solve a proportion. So that are done for us. For number 1, it says the scale of a New York State map is 1 inch is equal to 50 miles. Find the actual distance from Albany to New York City if the distance on the map is 2.75 inches. So the only thing you'd have to do is set up a proportion. So 1 inch is equal to 50 miles. So that can be 1 over 50 is equal to something over something. You want your inches to be across from each other, so that 2.75 would be on top of your second fraction. From there, you can just cross multiply. You have 50 times 2.75, which is 137.5. That would be miles, is equal to 1 inch. Or sorry, your distance, it's equal to the 137.5 miles. For 2, it says Roy made a scale drawing of the schoolyard using a scale of 2 centimeters is to 3 meters. He measured the gym and found that the length was 60 meters. What is this drawing of the length of his drawing? So we have 2 centimeters over 3 meters is equal to something over 60 meters. From there, we can just cross multiply. 3D is equal to 120, divide each side by 3, and you get the distance is 40 centimeters. So if we look at the example, some examples that are not done for us, which we do not have because it's kind of difficult, so we're going to actually look at. So if we look at the next section, which is percents, the word percent means for each 100. A percent is a ratio whose second term is 100. So the percent symbol is used to represent percents. Anything that you are working with a percent, it's out of 100. So it's something over 100. Anything greater than 100% is 1 point something or 2 point something, depending on what the value is. Decimals, fractions, and percents can be converted from one form to another. To write a decimal as a percent, multiply the decimal by 100 and write the percent sign after it. You can also move your decimal point 2 places to the right. To write a percent as a decimal, move the decimal place 2 places to the left, or divide the percent by 1,000 or by 100 and omit the percent sign. To write a fraction as a percent, first change the fraction to a decimal, then use the method above. Another way is to find an equal ratio with a denominator of 100. I prefer using the second method, which is setting up two fractions to make a proportion, but it's totally up to you which way you do it. To write a percent as a fraction, first write the percent as the numerator without using the percent sign. Use 100 in the denominator, and then simplify your fraction. So if we look at some percent shortcuts, 0%, the shortcut, it's always going to be 0. For 1%, divide by 100 or move the decimal point 2 places to the left. For 10%, it's over 100, so that's 1 over 10, or you can divide by 10, or you can move the decimal point 1 place to the left. 25% is 1/4, so you can divide by 4. 50% is 1/2, so that's dividing by 2. 100% is 1, so it's just the whole amount. And 200% you multiply by 2. Some examples that are not done for us. For 11, we're writing each as a percent. So for A, we have 0.03. If we move the decimal point 2 places to the right, we would have 3%. For B, we have 0.79, so again, move 2 places to the right, that's 79%. For C, we have 0.214, so we move the decimal point 2 places to the right, that's 21.4%. And then for D, we have 1.18, so if we move 2 places to the right, that's 118%. For 2, we are writing each as a decimal. So the 32%, you would move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So that's 0.32. Get rid of the percent sign. For B, get rid of this percent sign. Move 2 places to the left. That's 1.76. For C, move 2 places to the left. Get rid of the decimal or the percent sign. That's 0.448. And then for D, move 2 places to the left, get rid of the percent sign, that's 0.001. For 13, we're writing each as a percent. So for A, we have 2/5. We can set it equal to something over 100, and we can cross multiply. So I'm going to actually rewrite this up here. So we are given 2/5. I'm going to set it equal to something over 100 and then cross multiply. So 5 times x is 5x. 2 times 100 is 200. We divide by 5. We get that x is equal to 40. So that's 40%. For 13b, we are given 13 over 20. So again, I can set this equal to something over 100 and then cross multiply. So if I cross multiply, I'm going to get 20x is equal to 1300. I then can divide each side by 20. That 0 with a 0 on top is going to cancel out. So I'm going to have x is equal to 2 goes into 13 6 times with 1 left over. 2 goes into 10 5 times. So x is 65. That makes 65%. For 13c, we are given 4 over 25. We can also say 25 times 4 is 100. So if I multiply the 4 by 4, that's 16 over 100. Anything over 100 is that percent, so that's 16%. For D, we are given 9 over 16. Oops. So I am going to set this equal to something over 100 and cross multiply. So I have 16x is equal to 900. I'm going to divide each side by the 16. I have x is equal to 450 over 8. I then simplify this. The 450 divided by 8 gives me 56.25. So this tells me that this is 56.25%. For 14, we're writing each as a fraction in lowest terms. So for A, we're given 45%. So A, 14A, we have 45%. If I drop the percent sign and put this 45 over 100, I can then simplify by dividing both by 5. This is going to be 9 over 20. For B, we are given 8%. So again, I'm going to drop this percentage or the percent sign and put the 8 over 100. They both are divisible by 4, so this is going to be 2 over 25. For C, we are given 77%. So again, I'm going to drop the percent sign, put the 77 over 100, and then if I can simplify, I do. In this case, I cannot, so that is my answer. For D, we are given 7 1/4%. So I could drop the percent sign and put it over 100, but that would also give me 7 1/4 over 100, and you can't have a fraction within a fraction. So what I'm going to do is turn the 7 1/4 into a decimal. So that's 7.25 over 100. And you cannot have a decimal within a fraction, so I'm going to change the decimal point to where it goes 2 places to the right. So I'm going to do the same thing with the 100 to make it 725 over 10,000. From here, I am going to divide both of these by 25. So the 725 divided by 25 gives me 29. And the 10,000 divided by 25 gives me 400. That is a simplified fraction, so that's my answer there. For 15, we are given write these numbers in order from least to greatest. So for the first one, we have 3 3/4, then 390%, 3.86, 11 over 3, 3.6, and 369%. So that 3 3/4 is 3.75. The 390% is 3.9. Then we have the 3.86. The 11 over 3 is 3.6 repeating. Then we have 3.6 and 3.69%, which is just 3.69. So to put these in least to greatest, the lesser of all of these numbers is the 3.6. Remember, we're using the ones that they give us. Then from there, we have the 3.6 repeating, so the number they give us to go with that is the 11 over 3. Next would be the 3.69, so that's 369%. And then we have the 3.75, which is 3 3/4. Next would be the 3.86, and the 3.90 will be last, so that's 390%. For our last part of this lesson, we're solving percent problems. So there are 3 basic types of problems that involve percents. One is finding the percent of a number. The next is finding what percent one number is of a number or of another. And 3 is to find a number when a percent of it is known. Each problem can be solved by using a proportion or writing an equation that relates a number to the whole quantity to which it is being compared. You can also, what I like to use is over of is equal to percent over 100. This to me is like a cheat. It pretty much helps me with whatever problem I am working on with these types of problems. So if we look at the first set of problems that are not done for us, it tells us to find the percent of each number. So for 11, we are for A with 3% of 280. So we could use is over of is equal to percent over 100, or we can just say of means multiply. So I can do 280 times 0.03 once I turn that 3% into a decimal. So this is the same thing as 280 times 0.03, which is 8.4. For B, we have 18% of 550. So this is the same thing as saying 550 times 18% as a decimal, which is 0.18. So we have 99. For C, that is 135% of 160. So that's 160 times 1.35. So that gives us 21,600. And then D is 1/2% of 420. So that 1/2% is 0.5%. If we turn that into a decimal, that's 0.005 times 420. When we do this, we get 2.1. So our next part, we're finding each percent. So this especially is a good thing to use, that is over of is equal to percent over 100 for. For A, it says what percent of 14 is 56. So if we use is over of is equal to percent over 100, we can set up a proportion in order to use or to find that answer. So I'm just going to move this over here. So for 12A, we have what percent, so we're finding the percent, so that's going to be x over 100, is 14, or sorry, what percent of 14 is 56. So if we're doing is over of, it's going to be 56 is our is, of is our 14. So we're going to cross multiply with these. So we're going to have 14x is equal to 5,600. We are then going to divide each side by the 14. The 5,600 divided by 14 gives us 400. So x is 400, or 400%. For B, it tells us what percent of 1,500 is 120. So we are given our is and our of. Our is the 120. Our of is the 1,500. So 12B is going to be 120 over 1,500 is equal to percent, which we're finding, over 100. So we're going to cross multiply. We're going to have 1,500x is equal to 12,000. So we just divide each side by the 1,500. We have x is equal to 2 zeros cancel out for both of these. So 120 divided by 15 gives us 8. So that's 8%. For C, we have 65 is what percent of 200. So again, we're given our is and our of. So we're going to have 65 is percent of 200, the percent we're finding, so that's x over 100. So we're just going to cross multiply here, so it's going to give us 200x is equal to 6,500. We divide each side by the 200. So x is equal to 32.5. Oops. 32.5%. Remember, you could have canceled out these zeros. and just in 65 divided by 2. For D, we are given 153 is what percent of 90? So our is the 153, our of is the 90, our percent we are finding, and the 100 always stays. So we're going to cross multiply. So 90 is equal to 153 90x. We divide each side by the 90. One of those zeros cancels out. So x is equal to 153, then with a 0 divided by 9 is 170. And that's 170%. You want to keep in mind what they're asking you for when you're doing these. So for 13, it says the dinner bill for the Rayo family was $58. Mr. Rayo left a tip of 15% of the bill. What was the total cost of the family's dinner? So we're taking 15% of $58 plus the $58. So we're going to do 58 plus 58 times 0.15. So first I am going to multiply the 58 times the 15%. So 58 times 0.15 gives us $8.70. From there, I'm going to add that to the $58 because it asks us for our total. And that's going to give us a total of $66.70 for their check. 14 says 4 theater tickets cost $116. The sales tax on the tickets was $6.96. What was the sales tax rate? So this is a good thing to use your is over is equal to your percent over 100. We can do is over of. So we're looking for the percent. The 696 is our tax. So if the 696 is what percent of 116? So 696 is what percent of 116? And your percent is always over 100. So we're going to cross multiply. We get 116x is equal to 696. We divide each side by the 116 and get that x was 696 divided by 116 is 6. So 6%. For your practice problems, for your first page, number 1 asks you what fraction could be used to form a proportion with 7/8. Well, if we multiply both the 7 and the 8 by 2, we can use 14 over 16. 2 says which statement is a proportion. Remember, when you are multiplying cross products, they're equal to one another. So if you did 2 times 42, that's 70. That's 84. That's 84. And 7 times 10 is 70. Those are not equal to one another, so those cannot be that, or that one is not your answer. If you did the 16 times 6, you get 96. If you did the 24 times 4, you get 96. This is a true statement, so G is a proportion. For 3, it says which statement is not a proportion. So for A, you have 4 is to 32 as 1 is to 8. So 4 and 32 are both divisible by 4. The 4 would become a 1, the 32 would become an 8. So A would be your answer. A is a proportion. You're looking for the one that's not. For B, you have 51 is to 6 as 34 is to 4. 51 and 6 give you 8.5 if you divide them, and then 34 and 4 also give you 84. 34 divided by 4 is also 8.5. So these two are proportions. For C, you have 9 is to 27 as 2 is to 6. So that'd be 1 and 3 and 1 and 3. So that's not your answer. So D has to be your answer. For 4, it says find the value of n in the proportion. We have 32 over 48 is equal to 38 over n. So we're going to cross multiply. So we have 32n is equal to 48 times 38, which is 1824. Oops. 24. There we go. We then divide each side by the 32, and we get that n is equal to 57. For 5, we have 10.5 over x is equal to 3 over 5. So we're going to do 10.5 over x. So we cross multiply. So that's going to be 3x is equal to 10.5 times 5 is 52. Oops. 0.5. We divide each side by the 3. We get that x is equal to 17.5. For 6, we have 35 over 21 is equal to x over 27. So again, we're going to cross multiply. So 21x is equal to 35 times 27 is 945. We divide by 21. So x is equal to 45. Seven says a truck can travel 232 miles on 14.5 gallons of gas. How many gallons would the truck need to travel 400 miles? So we're going to do miles over gallons. This is going to give us 232 over 14.5 is equal to 400 over x. So we're just going to cross multiply. So we're going to have 232x is equal to 14.5 times 400 is 5,800. From here, we're just going to divide each side by 232. And that gives us that x is equal to 25. For 8, it says which bottle of hair conditioner is the best buy. So for F, we have 8 ounces for $1.49, so it's 1.49 divided by 8. That gives us 0.18625. Next, we have 12 ounces for $2.29, so it's 2.29 divided by 12. That's 0.19083, repeating. Next, we have 15 ounces for $2.75, so that's $2.75 divided by 15. That's 1.83, repeating. And then 20 ounces for $3.89, so that's $3.89 divided by 20, which is 0.1945. So the one that's the lesser of all of these is H. For our next page, we have a length of 20 miles is represented on a scale drawing by a line segment 4 centimeters long. So 20 over 4 is what we're starting with. What length is represented by a line segment 5.5 centimeters long? So we're going to set this equal to something over 5.5. We cross multiply to get 4x is equal to 5.5 times 20, which is 110. We then divide each side by the 4. So x is equal to 27.5 miles. For 3, it says on a map, a distance of 40 kilometers is represented by a line segment 3 centimeters long. So that's 40 kilometers over 3 centimeters. What length segment would you use to represent a distance of 140 kilometers? So that's equal to 140 kilometers over something. So we're going to cross multiply. So we're going to get 40x is equal to 3 times 140, which is 420. We divide each side by 40. So x is equal to 42 divided by 4 gives us 10.5 centimeters. For 4, it says a scale drawing shows all dimensions 1/6 actual size. What is the length of a computer screen if that is represented by a line segment of 1 3/4 inches long? So we're taking the 1 3/4 and we're dividing it by 1/16. So we are going to have 1 3/4 divided by 1/16. So the 1 3/4 has to turn into 7/4. Change to multiplication, flip your second fraction. The 4 turns into a 1, 16 turns into a 4, so it's 7 times 4, which is 28 inches. 5 says a New York State map uses a scale of 1.5 centimeters equals 30 miles. So that's going to be 1.5 centimeters over 30 miles. On the map, the distance between two cities is approximately 6.5 centimeters. What is the approximate actual distance between the cities? So we are dealing with centimeters, so that's going to go on top. So we're going to set this equal to 6.5 centimeters over something miles. So we're going to cross multiply. So we're going to have 1.5x is equal to 30 times 6.5, which is 195. We divide each side by the 1.5. We get x is equal to 130 miles. For 6, it says on a poster, the stamp that is actually 20 millimeters wide is shown 1 foot wide. The stamp is actually 30 millimeters. How long is it on the poster? So we're going to start with the 20 millimeters over 1 foot. We also have that it's 30 millimeters over x. So we're going to cross multiply. So it's going to be 30 is equal to 20x. We divide each side by the 20. We get x is 1 1/2 feet. For 7, we have a scale drawing of a room uses 9 centimeter line segments to represent length of 6 meters. Which of these could be the scale of the drawing? So 9 centimeters over 6 meters is the same thing as 3 meters over 2 meters. 3 centimeters over 2 meters. So that's B. For 8, it says a model of a building uses a scale of 2 centimeters to 1.5 meters. So that's going to be 2 centimeters over 1.5 meters. The height of the building is 18 meters, so that's going to go on the bottom with the meters. What is the height of the model? So we are going to cross multiply here. So we have 1.5x is equal to 36. We divide each side by the 1.5, and we get that x is 24 centimeters. For number 1 on our next page, we're asked what percent we see here. So we have a whole, that's 1, plus 10, plus another 10 is 23. So that's 0.23 of the whole. So that's 1.23%. 2 says what write 0.938 as a percent. So we'd multiply this by 100 or move the decimal point 2 places to the right. That's going to be 93.8%. 3 says which number is greater than 1? that would be A, 103. Remember, a full percent if a whole is 100%. So more than that, more than 100% is greater than 1. 4 said, Jim read 296 pages of a 400-page book. What percent of the book did he read? So we have 296 out of a total of 400. We can simplify this. It becomes 0.74, which is 74% of the book. 5 says, which number is not equivalent to the others? A is 56%, B is 40 over 25, which is 0.53 repeating. C is 0.56, well that's the same as A, so B would have to be our answer. If we did 14 divided by 25, or multiply these both by 4, we would get 56 over 100, which is the same as the rest. For 6, it says, which is equal to 350%? That would be H. For 7, it says the bank is paying 5.5% on saving accounts. What fraction is equivalent? So we would have 5.5 of 5.5 over 100, which would be 55 over 1,000. We can divide both by 5, and that would be 11 over 200. So that's D. 8 says 7/8 of the students in Miss Wilson's class passed the mathematics test. What percent of the class did not pass the test? So this is out of a whole. So that's 1/8 of the class that did not. 1/8 is the same thing as 0.125. So that's 12.5%. For number 9, it says Lori makes 85% of her free throws. What fraction part of her free throws does Lori make? So that's just 85 over 100, which simplifies to be 17 over 20. For 10, it says, which is the greatest? 1% of 3,999. So that would be 1% is 0.01. If we multiply that by 3,999, that gives us 39.99. G is 10% of 421, so that's 421 times 0.1, which is 42.1. 100% of 42 is 42. Oops, this should not have a percent sign on it. 25% of 160 is 160 divided by 4, so that's 40 as well. So the greatest is the 42, so that's G. For our last page, number 1, it says, what percent of 72 is 54? So we're using is over of is equal to percent over 100. So our is 54, of is 72, is equal to x over 100. So we're going to do our cross multiplication. So that's 72x is equal to 5400. We divide each side by the 72. So 5400 divided by 72 is 75%. For 2, we have how much is 45% of 240? So is we don't have, that's going to be our x. Of is 240. Our percent is 45 over 100. So we're going to cross multiply. So 100x is equal to 45 times 240, which is 10,800. We divide each of these sides by 100. Get rid of those zeros. We have x is equal to 108. 3 says 225% of what number is 81? So we have our is over of, which is our x, is equal to 225 over 100. So we cross multiply. So we're going to have 225x is equal to 8100. We divide each side by 225. So we're going to do 8100 divided by 225, which gives us 36. For 4, it says Brian saved 35% of the money he earned. If Brian earned $260, how much did he save? So what of 260, x over 260 is 35 over 100. We're going to cross multiply, so we have 100x is equal to 260 times 35, which gives us 9100. We divide each side by 100, so x is 91. That's $91. 5 says, of 1,600 radios inspected, 112 were defective. What percent of the radios were defective? So 112 of 1,600 is what percent over 100? So we can cross multiply. So 1,600 x is equal to 112. We can divide each side by the 1,600. We get 112 divided by 1,600 is 7%. For 6, we have 15%. The 15% tip on Craig's lunch bill came to $2.40. What was the amount of the bill before the tip? So 240 is what of, or is 15%, I'm sorry, over 100. There we go. So we can cross multiply. So we are going to have 15x is equal to 240. We divide by 15. So 240 divided by 15 gives us $16. For 7, it says a charity walkathon raised $1,200. This amount was 125% of the amount raised last year. How much was raised last year? So we're going to set up our proportion of 1,200 over something is 125 over 100. So we're going to cross multiply with these. So we're going to have 125x is equal to 12,000, so 120,000. We divide by 125. So x is equal to 120,000 divided by 125 is $960. For 8, it says Diane's salary is $32,000 per year. Her car payments total $2,880 per year. What percent of her salary is spent on car payments? So that's 2,880 of or over 32,000 is x over 100. So we are going to cross multiply. So that's going to be 32,000x is equal to 2,880. Add the 2 zeros. So that's 288,000. So we're going to divide by 32,000 on both sides. So x is equal to, those zeros can cancel out. 288 divided by 32 is 9%. For 9, it says a jewelry store is reducing the price of all items by 15%. The price on a silver bracelet will be $5.70 less than the regular price. Which equation can be used to find C, the regular price? For A, we have 0.15 times 5.70. That's 15% of 570. That's not it. B says 570 minus 15.5, or sorry, 0.15. That's not it. Then we have 0.15 times C is equal to 570. That right there is your answer. For 10, it tells us 58% of what number is 580. So we can take 580 as our is over our of, which we do not have, so we're going to put that as 0, is equal to 58 over 100. So we're going to cross multiply these. 58x is equal to 58,000. We are then dividing each side by the 58. So x is equal to 1,000. So this means that we are at the 1,000 of that number. So 580 of, or out of the 1,000 is the 58%.